In January 2018, I flew over to Belfast, Northern Ireland as a guest of Gary Walters and his team of paranormal investigators, Ghost Searchers Ireland. Our investigation was centred on the former prison known as Crumlin Road Gaol, which has a considerable reputation for all types of hauntings, including full manifestations of guards and prisoners, e.v.p, strange sounds with doors heard slamming shut, and male and female voices heard clearly calling out for help. A man walking down the sea wing and disappearing has also been seen by a lot of people, as well as that as a little girl. Having read the tales of hauntings here and the history of the building, I was certainly looking forward to a very in-depth investigation of this most fascinating site. Crumlin Road Gaol, or the County Gaol for Antrim as it was originally known, was built in Belfast between 1843 and 1845 on a design by the renowned architect and engineer Charles Lanyon. It was modelled on London's Pentonville prison and at the time cost £60,000. Other additions between 1880 and 1890 were a prison hospital and a laundry block. The first official use of the gaol began in March 1846, when 106 prisoners, which consisted of men, women and children, were marched in chains from the county gaol in Carrickfergus, completing a changeover of the two prisons. Of the original 106, 6 were already marked down for transportation to Australia or Tasmania. Women were held in the gaol until the early part of the 20th century, in the prison block house located at the end of D Wing. This was next to the Meter Hospital, although suffragettes were housed in A Wing during the 1913 to 1914 period. In the early years of the gaol, children were also imprisoned for stealing items of food or clothing in a city where poverty was so dire in the working class districts that people were forced to steal to survive. Sentences for children ranged from 1 week to 1 month and could easily include a whipping. The sentence could increase up to 3 months if this was not a first offence, as in the case of poor 10-year-old Patrick McGee, who found himself before the judge for a second time in 1858 for stealing clothes from a washerwoman. Patrick was sent down for 3 months, a sentence which resulted in the boy hanging himself in his cell on April the 27th, 1858. That same year, a law was introduced forbidding children under the age of 14 to be sent to an adult prison, but unfortunately too late to save poor Patrick McGee. In the jail's lifetime, 17 men were executed by hanging, their bodies buried within the prison walls in unconsecrated ground. The only marker was the men's initials, scratched into the wall against the year of execution by the prisoners themselves. When Lanyon designed the gaol, a gallows was not included, and the first executions took place on open gallows erected at the end of D Wing and in full public view. However, in 1901, a new execution chamber was constructed at the bottom of C Wing, and this was used until the last hanging in 1961. Of the 17 executed between 1854 and 1961, 15 were for criminal murder, 1 semi-political and 1, Tom Williams, for political action which resulted in the death of a police officer. The execution of 19-year-old Williams on September 2, 1942 was the most emotive to be carried out in the history of the gaol and was performed by Thomas Pierrepoint. Pierrepoint was the most regular of the hangmen to appear in the gaol, carrying out 6 executions between 1928 and 1942. The last man to be sentenced to death was a 19-year-old IRA man in April 1973. On May 15, 1973, the capital punishment law in Northern Ireland was brought into line with mainland Britain, and at the height of the Northern Irish conflict, the death sentence was removed from the statutory books. In 1996, the prison was decommissioned and handed over for public use, and for a number of years the building remained derelict and abandoned, until later when it was fully restored and open for public viewing and also used for public concerts and exhibitions. Okay, now we're going over to the old prison hospital. Unfortunately, there's no electricity, so we're going to have to rely on a panel light with the camcorder. But we're hoping that we might elicit something, but it's just really to give you a feel of what this building looks like in a semi-derelict condition. While walking over to the hospital with Ghost Searchers Ireland, team member Gavin Heaney shared some information on the prison burials of executed prisoners, whose bodies remain at the rear of the prison hospital.
The prisoners say there's some behind the hospital, there's some over in the far corner, that's where all the remains are. And the rule at the time was the executed prisoners had to be buried in unconsecrated ground in unmarked graves, but the prisoners who were burying them at the time broke the rules and scratched into the brickwork initials of the prisoners who had been buried and the dates.
So that'll still be there, won't it?
You can still see the markings.
Okay, we're outside the entrance of the old hospital building, and it's certainly inside in quite a derelict state. There's no electricity, but with the lights and with the camcorder, at least it will give you a feel or flavour of what this building would have originally have looked like. And more importantly, will any of the people that have lived and died here reach out to us and to make a statement in some shape or form as e.v.p, or make a noise or some other strange anomaly? And this is what we're hoping to find out here tonight. Now, it's feeling slightly dark side, moving towards the end. I don't feel anything really bad. There's been a lot of people in here burning candles.
Yeah, it was during the public event. Who's got the e.v.p recorder? Karen, have you got?
Okay, we're in another cell. We don't know what the cell door number is. It's not marked, but it's a cell that still has its radiators. I'm not really feeling much in here. When I first walked down to the far end of the corridor, I felt just a slight tingly negativeness, but very, very small, nothing that leaps out. But standing in this cell, I'm not really feeling much at all. Nothing at all. But it doesn't mean to say there isn't anything here. It just depends upon how they want to reach out to you. And if indeed they want to make contact with you, which is more important. You've also got to realise we're in a prison where the level of trust between prisoners and people outside of the prison would have been absolutely minimal. And particularly so with me. I'm in Northern Ireland, I've got an English voice, and we're going back to the troubles of the past. That too could have been something which would have niggled some people. Just the politics of the period. I don't hold anything against that, but it's just as an explanation. But I'm not feeling anything in here at all. We've certainly got their work cut out, but they've chipped all this away to expose the original Victorian brickwork, and the stone is incredible. Shall we check the rest of these out and then yes. Spirits of this building, we come here in love, light and peace. We mean you no harm, no disrespect. We know that this is the hospital wing of the prison. We know that people came here to be cured of their various illnesses. Some, of course, didn't, and they died. And we want to reach out to anyone who is still attached to this building. Somebody who has still very much got a feel for this place. I mean, from our perspective, looking at this building, it looks run down, it looks derelict, but obviously in your time it would have looked something different. But I just wondered if there's anybody here who would like to reach out to us, who would like to say something, give us some indication, please. Please don't be afraid. Please don't be angry. You can scan me, you can scan everybody in this group, and I know you can read people's thoughts. There is nothing of any of us here that means any malice or ill intent towards you. I feel pity, I feel sorrow, but I don't feel any malice. But there must have been some serious problems here in the past, very violent people that were brought here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chris. Just
yeah.
Before you said violent people, there was a little anomaly. Just moved right across from my
really?
left
Well, light
to right.
anomaly.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. But it's not going to be bugs. We are in January 2018. It's the 5th of January. It's really, really, really cold. It's well below freezing. I mean, there's ice outside the building, so anything that flies past here, short, unless it's a bat, of course, is going to be of interest.
No, it was slow movement.
Slow movement?
Straight across from your right to left shoulder.
Okay, so that was when I touched, well, the word, it could be a coincidence in itself, but it's interesting that you saw that. If it was dust again, it would rake up a lot more than this, but it seems the floor seems to be fairly clean, actually.
And if it was dust, you'd be getting it all the time?
You would, yeah, absolutely. What's this again? Sorry, Gavin?
Would you like to try?
Oh, we haven't done this one.
Okay. Okay. Sir, do you want to come on with the Geiger
Oh,
counter?
this is different. This is much different.
Yeah.
This is much, much different. Is that recording?
No, it's a Geiger counter. It's radiation.
Oh, radiation?
Yeah.
See what you pick up.
At the moment, it's reading 14.
Okay, let's just... If everyone settles down, then I'll go into a bit more. There's something here now, and you only feel... The thing about atmospheres, you only initially feel it generally for the first few seconds when you walk into a particular room somewhere. We're in this late Victorian hospital wing in a huge prison site. And so each cell, each building that we wander into is going to create and generate different flavours in terms of energy, in terms of smells, in terms of anomalies. But here, the atmosphere is quite different. I haven't felt any serious negativity. I haven't felt anything really, really bad. But here I feel death. I feel somebody died here for sure, definitely. I feel probably in most cells people died, but here I can feel this. This is like a ringing endorsement of that. And the feeling that I get in this particular room is a chest complaint, which could be a whole variety of illnesses. And to be fair, if you're a skeptic, it's easy for me to throw these things out. Oh yeah, TB or whatever the case may be. But I can only tell you what I'm actually feeling, what I'm sensing. And so I'm reaching out to the person in this cell. In fact, that noise that you heard earlier, that could also be a chest wheezing, couldn't it? Apart from yourself. Could you please give us a sign, indicate to us your presence, please? Could you make a noise, or could you touch one of us, or could you say something? Meaning no harm or disrespect. And this one, I feel, is a little bit more fearful of us. But when I mentioned violence, you picked up a light anomaly, it flashed. Are there any violent people here? Any persons in spirit who are violent? Did you hear that? Any voice? Outside in the corridor.
I heard it. Or something.
It was like a very faint.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah.
We'll play it back. What's the reading?
It was a very, very faint noise, but I heard it coming from the corridor.
How many minutes are we in, Gavin?
That's just 7 minutes.
So
Just under about 6.
Okay, let's explore out here.
We'll play it back.
Did somebody say something? Is there anyone here who said something? I heard someone say something. It was a very, very short sound. Like, whoop, like that. It felt like someone was talking in the background. Is there anybody who wants to say something? I was talking about violent prisoners. Is there somebody here who is particularly violent that keeps the others down? Is there somebody here who has ill intent and malice towards others? Is there somebody here who's keeping the others in line? If you are here, can you give us a sign, please? Because obviously you would be the big shot of the wing. You would be the guy who they would look to. But in our world, in our existence, you don't register as anything unless you say something or you do something. We haven't come here to offend you. We're just trying to reach out and make some line of contact with you. So could you make something move, please? Could you rattle something? I know it sounds a bit patronising, like we're trying to teach you circus tricks, but it's the only way we know that you are listening directly to us. Okay, we wander down. We're using it for storage, aren't we? Yeah, it's long. That's fine. You feel that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really...
It's hard to breathe in here.
Yeah, it was... Just walking in here, you were struggling to breathe. You feel that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really...
It's hard to breathe in here.
Yeah, it was... Just walking in here, you were struggling to breathe. I'm wondering if people died here thrombosis and stuff like that, chest complaints, because it seems to... I'm just getting a feel about that all of the time while we're in here. Please, can you give me a sign? Again, I'm not feeling anything negative here at all, but I certainly felt that energy. Did anyone feel that? You guys have just walked in. Did you not feel like a heaviness on the chest? We did when we walked in.
Yeah, not to be actually, now that you say that.
I feel a slight heaviness in here, but that cell next door. You mentioned the difference as soon as you walked in. I had, as soon as I crossed the threshold, like a light heaviness.
Yeah, you felt that immediately. And here it's a heaviness on the chest. It's interesting. So what we're getting is like a reflection of what people suffered with, or as examples of what people may have suffered with, but those that are still here in spirit. But I'm not feeling anything else here. It was just that heaviness when we came in. But is there anybody in this cell here? I felt the energy. Is there anything you wish to say? I know it sounds crazy, and I know it's not going to be there. I think this is more in my mind's eye rather than anything, but I heard a woman's voice.
What was she saying?
Shouting down, as though she had an Irish accent, and she was shouting down, as though she was shouting down to somebody.
In this room?
No, it's I can't explain it. It's nothing to do with this cell. It's to do with this area. And this was built when? In the late 19th century?
Yeah,
so presumably before then, this would have been open land.
I assume so, yeah.
So I'm wondering if it may have had something to do in the much earlier period when they incarcerated women and children in here. It's hard to believe that people would lock up women and children in prisons, but they did. It's despicable what our ancestors did, and it's unforgivable in a way. And if you like, when we come into these ancient buildings, we're picking up a shadow of what these people had suffered with, what they went through, and the tragedy and the events which are tied to them. But I'm not feeling much else in here. Anybody got anything at all?
Well, this has gone up to, it went up to 20, and it was really low out there. It was 9. So I don't know if that's...
What is that, sir?
It's the Geiger counter.
What does it do?
It measures the radioactivity. So if there's any abnormal readings, it'll spike.
So it's telling us there's a change in the atmosphere?
Yeah. Because it was low in there. But
it's going to affect, again, what can cause fluctuations in those devices is that the stonework, stonework and the floor carries a certain level of natural radiation. So
it's jumped up to 21.
Okay, is anybody in here who's just made their presence known who would like to say something, please?
Is there difficulty in breathing, but just the lungs or something feel quite heavy?
See, just as you were talking about the Geiger going up this when out of focus twice. For about 10 or 15 seconds.
It probably could be a reflection of this here. It's refocusing itself. It's still recording, yeah.
There's something definitely to do with the chest. I don't know whether there was an outbreak of TB that might have killed a number of cavemen.
He's down.
Can we go upstairs?
Yeah, we've got full. We can go anywhere.
Oh, right.
Anywhere
I
at all.
wanted it safe to walk.
Yeah, it's fine.
Let's see, I've just got a feeling, I don't know what it is, but we're up here.
Hold on. Help it out. There, that's you. There, that's you. There, that's you. That's actually really weird because I didn't sense you standing behind me the way I did in the tunnel. So that, if anything, proves more to me that was something really there.
Energy there?
Yeah, absolutely. Because obviously you are a real person and I didn't feel that.
It's the lighting that's important.
This is good because we're doing this in colour, so it's even better. Instead of your boring black and white.
Totally, yeah. Right, it's a toilet block. This must be a, oh, this is the hospital wing.
Yes.
Oh, it's different in here. Okay, this appears to be a small hospital wing, bed wing.
Doctor's room?
This is a doctor's room.
Was it?
Doctor's room. So there's a number of, I presume this is for the heating, isn't it? Yeah. There's a lot of radiator points here, so I wonder if they had beds put in here at some point.
Oh, 29. From 10 to 29.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Let me see quick.
It was a 10.
Yeah, it's jumped up to 29. That's a big jump.
Oh, I'm feeling an anger now. Somebody who died here, who, the impression I have, a feeling, there's someone who died here who, of an illness, but who felt he was innocent. And I can feel this anger, and it was quite markedly different to any of the other rooms I've been into. Just briefly, I felt this really, really strong anger, this negativity, that someone who died here of an illness, which was probably preventable in the first place, and felt, I can believe he probably was innocent, because I can feel that emotion of innocence.
Was it an anger like he wants to lash out, maybe?
Yeah, it was a kind of, if I was going to be vulgar, it was a bit more F.U., you know, it was that kind of...
So it might be angry enough to
Yeah.
make himself known.
I don't think he's going to, well, he might make a noise, I don't think he's going to lash out at anybody, or... If there's anybody in this room that I'm standing in now, we're all here together, if there's anybody in this room who would like to say something, that would like to make a statement so that those that live today can know the misdeeds of the past, could you say so now, please? Can you please do so? I think that could well be natural settlement.
Yes.
Tag.
Can you make a noise, please? Can you tap on the roof? Can you tap on the windows? Can you pour something? Can you make a noise? Can you do something?
There's plenty of small stones around if you could...
Yeah, there's a few pebbles which are coming from the crumbling brick and stonework. Yeah, I feel it just feels sad in here. It feels sad and empty. It's really weird.
There actually is something that's actually happening here that is very hard to get records of. So what you're saying is
It's going to be
interesting.
difficult to prove either way.
Yeah.
But knowing, I mean, for example, TB was a fairly persistent illness in the 19th century. There must have been a lot of people that passed through this hospital wing who died of various ailments, diseases, or people who may have been attacked by other prisoners and as a result of which they later died.
Sorry, sir, what do you say?
I just heard whistling twice
Did you?
over there. I thought it was one of you guys. No. You don't hear it?
I did move across the floor, but it wasn't like a whistle. It probably would have been like a
Just try to recreate it again.
So it was over here and then
It was a high-pitched sound.
No, I didn't hear anything.
No, I'm not feeling much more from here. Shall we wander on? Very odd. We've got another. Now this feels a lot more dark side to where we were before. Over here.
When you walked in there, Chris, there was a sound. I don't know if you heard it or not, just over there.
No, I missed it. Just over there?
Yeah.
It was just like a tap.
Yeah, like a tap. Did you
Oh,
hear
the
it?
tap. Yeah, sorry, I did hear the tap. Yeah, I thought it was one of the group, but it wasn't. Was it the radiator? Let's have a look.
No, it was definitely, it sounded like a tap. Just when we walked in.
More like stonework rather than
Yeah.
woodwork or glass.
Yeah. But where did you pick it up? Over here?
In
corner?
the general area where you are there.
Exactly. That's why I picked it up too. That's why I'm asking. Where did you pick it up?
But it feels, the energy feels much heavier here.
Did you just go like a
No, I haven't
like
sighed
a
or made any
wind, like
noise.
like
I heard
that?
that again.
Did you hear that?
What could have been your nose?
No, it wasn't me. No, I definitely heard it.
What did you hear?
It's the same thing I can hear. It's a high whistle, like that.
Again, it's a chest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Definitely heard it. I heard it that time, but it was in around you.
There's
Chris.
somebody, I'm pretty sure here, in this hospital wing, there is at least one person with a chest complaint who's haunting this building, because that's twice we've heard it, plus all the other weird noises. And here, can anyone just come over here and just walk to the corner and tell me if you feel anything? Just as you get right into the corner.
Feels strange. Sounds like a happy feeling.
No, for me it wasn't. It just felt a little bit negative. But I mean, it's a sensation. Are you feeling anything at all, Gavin?
I have to say I'm not feeling it.
No, it's just like a happy feeling.
What about you girls? Do you want to come over? Reach out. It's still there. You feeling anything?
No.
Weird. Yeah, I'm still feeling it.
no. I always get the feeling of being watched in the hospital wing as soon as we come in here. I always get that really.
Don't you hear that?
Yeah, sorry. Did you just go?
No, it's like.
Yeah, you heard what I heard. Did you not hear that? No.
My hearing's gone.
That was honestly.
Look, the bottom line is that they are following us around and they are playing games
well,
with
yes,
us.
we're captured on the recording. If it
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully it's on.
Well, if
yeah.
you can hear it, you'll have caught it on the recorders.
I didn't
Sound-
hear that, but I heard the other stuff earlier.
It was high pitched. It was like a woman.
Okay, let's press on then.
Yes, it's behind us.
Should we keep deadly silent now until we walk into keep absolutely deadly quiet, and then we'll just see what chills. Not by any of us saying anything, just to see if we get a reaction.
Tag. That was Chris. If you hear me saying tag, Chris, you know that's normal. When I say tag, you whispered there when you were walking away, so it just said tag. You know that was you talking.
Right.
Just in case you're playing it back and you think it's an EVP or something.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's a toilet block. There's a stone down there. Who was that? Sorry, we'll have to try and keep really, really quiet because we're getting these whispers. We need to eliminate them.
Karen.
It just feels disgusting, isn't it? I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
The atmosphere here feels quite neutral, doesn't it?
It's calm.
Yeah, calm, peaceful. There's no heaviness. There's no wheeziness or anything.
Absolutely back to normal.
Yeah, nothing here at all. On the bed, not. Well, if you fall out of bed at night, you're not going to cause any problems, are you?
Does it have it? Is it getting heavy? Do you want to hold this one? What's it?
I'm sitting at about 4 or 5, and as I walk, look, 33.
I thought I'd heard something moving.
Oh, back down to 8. Look, right outside that.
Over here, guys. As I walked in here, it just standing here came through. I could feel something, but when I got to this point, it was like a heaviness that suddenly went. Whoosh, and Gavin came across. What did you feel?
Again, I got like the lightness in the head, the same thing that I got in the cell downstairs. I still have it, actually.
So you felt a little bit overshadowed by it?
Almost, yeah. I mean, as you said, the cell next door, completely calm.
Nothing at all.
Sorry, guys, sorry.
I think it was the girls.
Was that the girls? Sorry. That's not like, sorry, Gavin, that's not like you to feel like that. Sure it's not?
No, well,
You don't usually feel like that?
yeah, I can't
Not for a while now?
Not for a good while I haven't now, but it's amazing just the way it can differ.
Yeah, from cell to cell,
Yeah.
it's like chalk and cheese, isn't it? Yeah. Wonder what the next cell feels like. You obviously had friends around here. Have a look in here.
We'll get the connector on and Karen down in the tunnel.
There's a gap here on the door, so be careful when you step in. I feel something, but it's so weak, it's almost insipid. It's not like you walk in here and go, wow, but there is something, but it doesn't feel very, very strong. Nothing at all like that. But again, it's different from the cell that we've just emerged from into here. And let's try the next cell very quickly. Watch that gap there.
Okay, guys.
Oh, now I just feel a tiredness, drained, just like somebody who'd just given up a struggle. That's what I'm
weird.
getting.
Just when you said I don't know if you noticed, I was feeling it hard to breathe there.
Yeah. You were having experiences of feeling hard to breathe.
I very rarely feel like this, but when I've just come in this room, just like hard to breathe.
We're saying about the heavy feeling and almost the difficulty in breathing. Where I experience that a lot in the prison is actually in B wing. I don't know why, but it's every time I walk up and down B wing.
I wonder if there's a connection between somebody who was seriously ill there who came here.
Possibly.
And that's the problem that we've got, without a clear case of records which can be resourced so we can actually check out the background of these stories. It's very, very difficult to substantiate some of the, I would say, claims loosely that we've made tonight, because we're simply reacting to feelings and what we're picking up. We have nothing which is hardcore proof or evidence. It's just a sensation. But, of course, what would be interesting if we pick up a lot of stuff as e.v.p, which might confirm some of the stories that we're sensing. And there's the staircase down here. And we've got one more cell here.
A big place, isn't it? It's like a TARDIS.
These are actually telephone points.
Yeah.
Standard BT screws. No, I'm not getting anything here. Nothing at all. It's just really about 3 or 4 cells that you're picking up something, but it's nothing that's leaping out. It's not grabbing and shaking it.
Do you think it's essential, or do you think it's actually hopping? There's hopping going on?
I just think that what we were picking up, mostly, not all, was kind of residual energy within the building. But there were 1 or 2 points, though. There was one cell I went into where I really felt there was somebody there.
Oh, right, okay.
But that was where we heard the wheeziness, I think. That's where it started. So it'd be interesting to see on the videotape whether we've got anything there we can share. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. And the fact that we got it downstairs and then it
Yeah.
seemed to follow us upstairs.
It
was
yeah,
following
it
us
could well
around.
do. Yeah,
That's
it
where
could well be following us.
they're probably just as curious to know what we were doing.
Okay, we've covered the cell block. We've covered the hospital wing. They're all cell blocks. We've covered the hospital wing block, and we have picked up 1 or 2 possibly interesting pieces of activity in the form of audio voice phenomena, possibly electronic voice phenomena, and most certainly we've all experienced this bunged jaw, almost like someone was suffering with a chest infection. Could be one spiritual presence, or it could be a whole wing was infected by it, and it may have been part of a personal tragedy which occurred a long time ago, and again, we don't know the records. But I can say it's been interesting. It's not been one of the buildings you go into where it really starts coming out punching and kicking, but it certainly has been interesting for a wander around. So I think what we can go back, have a short break, and then we can start on the next part of our tour around the prison. I hope you've enjoyed it so far, everybody. It's a new place for me. I've never been here before in my life, although I have been to a few prisons as a police officer. I hasten to add, but never as a prisoner. And the atmosphere that you experience in prisons and you experience here in a general way is very, very similar. But I've certainly found it very interesting. Anything from any one of you guys? Anybody would like to say something on camera?
Sarah, you were feeling something?
Still getting it.
Chest
Really bad chest pain.
Chest pains.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had that in here before?
Not here, no.
No.
But I don't. Yeah, it's still there, like. But I don't know if it's just.
It'll be interesting to see if it clears once we're leaving.
Yeah.
Whenever we're...
Well, we'll get you out.
Also, remember the anomaly you caught downstairs?
Oh yes, this light anomaly that flicked across. How big was it, Gary?
I don't think it was an insect. It was too slow to be an insect.
No,
Or a
it would
fly,
be too. It would
you know,
be too late in the year. For an
it was
insect.
small. It was very, very small, and it did definitely. Just when you started talking, it moved right
Well, it's
across.
something for me to look at when I go through
Yeah,
the video.
yeah.
I'm enjoying this so far. It is bitterly cold. It's not one of those places you could spend all night walking
No,
about in.
no.
So we're going to have a very short break, and then we're going to go on to the next part of the investigation. So yes, it's been very, very good. It's a bit ramshackle in here, isn't it?
Yeah. Dick, stop 30. Dick, stop 30. Dick, stop 30.
Thank you. I'll leave you in peace. Thank you. We're now going to B Wing, where we're going to investigate each of the individual cells. Gary's got my camcorder and light, so thumbs up, and we've got a number of other pieces of kit which we're hopeful to be able to pick something up with. As we move forward to visit B Wing, the atmosphere was changing from a fairly neutral environment into one which traversed time back to an era beyond the memory of modern man, a world of stiff discipline and inhumane punishment, a place where dangerous men still roam the seemingly empty wings and harbouring a vengeance for those who dared to walk its corridors. Little did I know of what was to come, and the prison, as I discovered, certainly lived up to its more spectral reputation for some events yet to be played to our willing audience of 5 adults on a site devoid of other living people and us who have dared to tread within its dark, cold walls.
Feels like the lair of an animal. It's... Since I walked through it in the darkness, I walked into here, it felt like an untethered dog and it was just waiting to bite, to attack. Feels very negative.
Sort of tell me story again. It's like when we had Brian over with us, and I can't remember, it was in B-Wing here, but I can't remember exactly which cell. I think it was maybe a couple down.
You've done an e.v.p. session?
We did an e.v.p. session, and we were sort of laughing because there was a fly moving around. And we asked Brian to call out being an American because one of the prisoners that was executed here was an American, Eddie Collins. So he called out for him using the voice recorder, and we got an e.v.p. that sounded like, again, in an American accent, going, horse fly.
Do you want to try an e.v.p. in here? Do you want to try an e.v.p. session?
Yeah, I should say, the feeling that I had when I walked in here, it just felt animalistic. It didn't feel... I know it sounds weird, but it felt like a human acting like an animal. Can you give me some indication, please? I know there's somebody here. It's very strong.
Sorry, just after you said animal, it was a strange... It sounded audible to me.
A strange?
Audible.
Oh, you heard?
Yeah, I think I heard something.
What did you hear?
It was over here in the corner.
Well, let's just see how we go with this. I know that you're here. I can feel your presence here. And I just get the impression of someone who has got a lot of pent-up anger. And you just felt like if anyone walked through that door, if a prison officer walked through that door, you'd want to attack them. That's what I think. And it doesn't help, I suppose, with me being a retired police officer. How does that feel? A peeler. Feels very, very horrible. Is there anything you want to say? Anything, any noise, any sound that you want to create? It just feels dark, doesn't it? You know, that kind of... You felt that, Gavin? That kind of... Like an animal? It's like walking into a kennel or something like that. Sometimes when you walk into buildings and the sensations that you feel, I mean, from my experience, when I was a police officer, we would have some prisoners that were incredibly violent and they would kick off. And quite often, if they wanted to be as unpleasant as they possibly could, they would coat the cell walls with excreta, their own feces, and they would also rub it on their own bodies because they know that no one's going to want to rescue or roll around with them. And this is that kind of feeling I'm getting here, like somebody did these disgusting practices on that level. But that's all I can say. I'm not picking up anything at all. It doesn't appear to be like it wants to, in a physical sense, to attack. But you just get that emotion of that negativity, that feeling of frustration and anger. Yeah, weird. Just can excel.
Okay. Karen, can you play that back, see if the voice could have picked that up, that sound?
What was it?
That was like audible, it sounded audible to me. Just when we arrived in.
Should we have a quick look in here?
I'm useless at this.
That one works. Yeah, this is a shower room, isn't it? Any persons in spirit in this building, in this room, we come here in love, light and peace, we mean you no harm, We mean you no disrespect. We just wish to make friendly and peaceful contact with you. I haven't come here to offend you, and nor has anybody else who's here tonight. And we're just reaching out to you to ask you whether or not you're prepared to give us some indication of your presence. I'm not fitting anything in here, by the way, but I'm just going to try and see if we can draw something through. Can you please give me an indication? Can you come to this room now, this cell? What was that? Someone's tummy?
I heard that.
No, I heard that.
It didn't sound like.
I came from over the person.
Yeah.
I heard it.
Sound like water or... But there's no water.
No, there's no water.
Okay, we've heard that. Quite often as well with e.v.p, when you hear it, you don't often get it recorded. And yet when you don't hear it, it's as clear as day, and you think, why didn't I hear that?
Eddie Collins, are you here? We think we've caught your voice in the past. Are you still here? If you are, can you let us know?
A slight change now. I'm feeling like a sickness. Aching sickness, like the flu. Yeah, it's changing in here. It's definitely changing.
Yeah, of course you can.
Stop there.
Yeah, that's good.
I can see where the spirits hang out.
Yeah, but it's
Good. It's good. Ricky. Oh my God. Yeah, this definitely feels dark. Be very careful, folks. Look, there's like a metal stud, and there's one as well. Just be careful where you walk. Yeah, this feels unpleasant. Whether it's proactively unpleasant, I'm not sure. They've got a lot of damn problems in the prison, haven't they, to deal with? It's a huge task. Let's go to the next one.
This is originally the store.
Yeah, there's someone here.
It's warmer in here.
There's somebody here. I know you're here, I can feel you.
Oh, jumped up to 33.
Yeah, there's somebody here. Somebody definitely, we can see that on there, it's gone up.
33.
That's a big jump. There's a change in environment.
Down to 4 again.
I'm touched into this guy, I can feel him.
Down to 4. Yeah.
Okay, the guy I'm feeling here is probably a guy I'm picking up. He's got fair hair, which obviously is a prisoner, so it's going to be short. He's got the period that I put him to is probably pre-war, and he's here, and I can see him wearing a shirt and prison trousers. No, post-war, just post-war. 1947-48 is how I see how he's dressed. Yeah, and there's something very negative about this. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, please? Can you tell us your name? Yeah, he's got fair hair, fair skin. I can't tell you what colour eyes he's got, I presume they're either light blue or... but quite slim. Probably in his late 20s. But I definitely feel him in here. And when I walked in here, I felt him like this. Standing here like this. In this corner. Exactly where I'm standing. Yeah, no reaction on there. But that's just the initial feeling that I got.
Just in that area, Chris, or in that position?
I just felt it, standing here like this, standing with his hands. Like, if the prison officers came in here, he would have to stand here.
Yeah.
Or if he didn't stand like that, he'd get beaten. There's something different about this cell as well. It's not a cell that you put people in to sleep.
I was going to be in trouble.
We then decided to leave the cell after a few minutes, as activity in there had stopped completely. The team appeared to be in good spirits as the investigation had gone particularly well. But as we all know, it's when you feel relaxed that things start to happen, and particularly an event the prison is noted for, which is the sound of doors slamming, as you will hear.
That's...
I love that sound. Okay, there's loads of boxes and tiles and things.
Guys, hold on a second.
Gary immediately went to the circle area of the building to investigate, but discovered no other persons or possible sources for the noise source.
Hello? Hello? No, there's nobody here, guys. Nobody there. Hello? Well, we all heard that. That was definitely a door banger. That was definitely... I thought somebody had closed that door.
Is there no one else in the building?
Should we go to the upper levels?
Yeah.
Might be warmer up there as well. We can get around
I
this
just
way.
can't wait to get him down the day.
The staircase is just behind us.
There we go. It feels different on this floor. It feels a lot different.
It's
Treasure
Chris
from class.
Stainless Stone. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Ooh, just got that cobweb effect in the face. Have I got a cobweb in my face? Is there a cobweb?
There was one across, I noticed when you were coming up, yeah.
Is there a cobweb in my face?
I don't know, I can see.
A cobweb effect?
But it
I'm
was...
not,
I
again,
see
this
the
is,
cover.
I'm not. I bet you, Gavin, are you feeling anything? I'm not.
Nothing at the minute, Chris.
No, we're struggling at the moment. We're not finding that
Has anything
magic.
happened since?
No.
Not just yet.
I see those little weak...
Yeah, it was cobweb in the face. Fucks. I knew it was.
Like
Like
even on
fucking
the other
cobweb.
side.
What's that
We
sound?
literally heard footsteps for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Where was this?
Out in the circle. But we
Was that
were looking down.
after the or the door banging?
Yeah, so we walked down.
There was
We were
nobody
looking
there.
down C-Wing. And then we heard the footsteps.
Yeah.
And you thought it came down from down
That's
the
Chris.
hill.
That's
It
good.
sounded like the thing, the wind coming up towards us. Sarah heard it more like coming from behind us.
Like
was
as
that?
in
There's
That's
footsteps?
outside. That's Chris.
No. It was. I know what I heard. It was like a door. Chris,
I thought it was a horn outside.
did you open the door there about 30 seconds ago?
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just basically going through
Checking
it
each one,
to
yeah.
see if we've got anything. They all feel the same. They feel cold and damp, but they don't sort of reach out. There's nothing that, you know, you don't get that tenseness that you feel that we felt in the hospital.
Yeah.
No, it feels exactly the same as the building, the room next door, the room after that. We just keep pressing on. I don't think this cell block's particularly active, really.
I never thought this
We don't get much in B-Wing.
D-Wing and C-Wing.
Well, that's where we're going next. We've lost the light on this. Let's go back,
Charge up.
recharge,
Charge everything.
quick coffee, then we
Yes.
go
Yeah.
and do the next block.
Right. Round 3.
Are there any RRA prisoners here? And there must be people here in spirit who were innocents. And it's for you. Those are the ones that we're trying to reach out to. And it's for you people that we're trying to reach out to.
I thought I said a bad word.
There's a very dark presence around.